Welcome to today's episode of Simply Honest, the show where we give you honest yet simple first impressions of the latest games with a little bit of gameplay sprinkled in. I'm your host, Nico Silverado, and today we are tackling the game known as Stray. To give a reader's digest of the story is honestly quite simple. Stray is a game where you are playing as a cat, not a magical cat, not a cat with superpowers or guns, just an everyday cat who got separated from their family in a post-apocalyptic world in the very far future. And now you, by yourself, are quite literally going to solve the problems of a crumbling, hyper-advanced robotic society just to get back to your cat family. All in all, pretty simple concept for a game. During the course of this review period, I took the opportunity to look into Stray in regards to finding out how I felt the concept was and how they were able to do the things that this indie studio was able to create. Upon my research, I eventually found out that Stray actually used cats in mocap suits, or at least the mocap sensor balls, in order to create the hyper realistic and amazing motion acting of the character that we play throughout the game. For me, I've always appreciated the fact that some games take a lot of extra steps in order to create their games in the most unique way possible, and Stray did this by using the actual cats. As a bona fide cat dad, I'd have to say that this game already has a high approval standing for me because they just have cats. It's simple. Might be biased in this situation, but cat in game, automatic game of the year. I don't make the rules, I'm just saying. Getting away from all the personal biases, overall, within the realms of the game's design, it is surprisingly simple, but yet efficiently simple. In this game, you are not overcompensated with this situation of having a weird UI that has abilities, compass directions, and other dialogues. You are simply a third-person camera as a cat parkouring and running around through the realms of the world. And even with the game itself being more or less what some would call simplistic in terms of design, the concept carries this game forward in a unique and fun style game that I believe a lot of people who try out Stray for the first time will quite genuinely enjoy. After taking a moment to actually look into the game and appreciate all the graphic qualities and the sound design, my overall first impressions of the gameplay were relatively what you would expect. First off, when it comes to the game itself, as I said previously, as a bona fide cat dad, this game had a different perspective in regards to who your main character was. The perspective of an average, normal cat without the hyper intelligence of some other games, to me was an automatic appreciation and in some cases a perfect game. Granted, that was a bad joke, but you know what I mean. While yes, the game itself is amazing, I would like to mention that there are aspects of the game that did have some personal gripes for myself, because obviously every game has its ups and downs and there's no such thing as a perfect game. And I want to take a moment to explain some of the parts that for the gameplay felt either empty or things that I felt personally could have maybe used some improvement or minor adjustments on. Overall, the controls were nice, nothing very complex. The gameplay was very simple to understand and very easy to incorporate throughout your gameplay of the entire story. But there were some segments of the game where, in my personal perspective, felt somewhat empty. NPCs would often be very spread apart and not too many things happening in between some segments of the realms. Sometimes the involvement of the other robotic NPCs felt simple. I felt that there were some robots in the city that could have used some more personality, or if anything, I felt that there could have been more interaction opportunities with some more of the NPCs. Now, granted, overall, the game's purpose is 100% a pure storytelling aspect style game. I personally appreciate that. It's not meant to be a game that is supposed to compel strategy, really intense encounters, because for myself, I take great joy in games that involve action and strategy, and Stray itself is a title that really allows players to knock themselves down a few pegs in order to really slow down, appreciate a fun story without being very forced to try to earn a new skill ceiling for a game. This game in and of itself is a comfort game. Like I said earlier, the game has a cat. I play the game. Automatic Game of the Year contender for me, just because biases for cats. But of course, everyone might be a little bit different. I think what many people who hear about this game may question is if whether or not this game is built for them in regards to learning how to appreciate and love this game. And that's what I like to make these reviews for. These reviews are meant for a way for me to try to voice myself for players of all styles, and a way for players to genuinely understand if whether or not a game is meant for them. And it's okay if a game is not, because every gamer is different, every gamer has a preference, and I like to try to do what I can to give you all an educated information so that way you can make that decision to say yay or nay on a game like this. Now, overall, is this game very well created? Yes, by all means. It is a very well-versed story, it has a very easy to follow game system and UI. The complexity is enough to be entertaining, but the game is not challenging to the point where you're going to hear Dark Souls music in the back of your mind as you're fleeing from the plague that roams around this game. Unless, of course, that's what you hear when you play cat games. In other words, all power to you. Is Stray built for everybody? And in all honesty, I would say no. The game is very simplistic, in some cases very slow pace as per the original intent, but I think the slow pace has its own charm. There are various collectibles, various voice lines and rounds you can have with various NPCs, and it really allows you to have fun with each and every zone, allowing you to almost never-endingly just camp in your favorite region as a cat and, you know, enjoy your best life. Overall, the story of Stray could be categorized as moderately short, especially if you choose to focus solely on the main story versus finding every collectible and maybe causing the occasional round of chaos. But the story itself had a very sweet story, and the ending gave me a moment of sadness. Depending on what kind of gamer you are, you might have a different opinion in regards to the story itself. Now, throughout our time playing through this game, I think one of the biggest things that really stood out to me was the overall design quality and the sound design quality made by this game studio. Stray was indeed made by an indie studio, and I think an often thing that I like to say during these reviews is that a lot of indie studios tend to get a lot of predetermined bad raps because a lot of individuals believe that because they are an indie studio, they have lower quality, lower production value, and a lot of times their games do not meet the higher standards that many of us have, especially for AAA games. During my time of this review, Stray blew all of those pre-notions out the water. The graphics quality of the environment was beautiful, super high detailed. The sound design quality, especially in regards to the music, was very cheery, very well-rounded. This game gave me a lot of fun opportunities to explore and really dive into the review, and I was very appreciating of that. With every new region we were able to explore, we were able to be given a very fun twist on the overall perspective to the world. Everything from the first town you meet, where everything was very run down, but still moderately homey, and then eventually you upgraded yourself to the very large, super developed neon city, where the entire map came alive due to the general population and all the various places in the map. Each region to me was very different, and it was often hard not to get really invested into each region, because as a person who likes to explore game design and various forms of art, I always love finding out how much personality people put into certain games in order for me to properly fully immerse myself into the universe and to the artwork that the developers had created. Overall, one thing I really do appreciate is that this game itself, from a technological standpoint for users, is impactfully very low. The game's beauty and the visual audios are really wonderful, and I think that anyone with any form of system and computer would be able to play this game on higher settings, allowing them to truly and fully appreciate and to absorb the elements of this game. As we come to approach some of my final thoughts for Stray, I would like to summarize that Stray itself is a fantastic game. I believe that every award that at the time of this recording that Stray had earned for being a very well created indie game was 100% earned, and I believe this game could be a fan favorite for anyone who has this in their library if you're ever looking for a game that is comfortable and calming. The concept, the story was very entertaining, and the gameplay for me was very enjoyable and something that allowed me to, for lack of better words, turn my brain off as I chose to explore the various regions within the game. While the game itself may not be for everybody, I would recommend that people give the game a chance. If you're ever feeling lazy or you're looking for a fun experience when times are low and slow, because Stray is an example of what indie studios are capable of, and above all, what passion, creativity, and other unique processes can show in gaming that will allow people to see that indie games can be top shelf style games. It doesn't need to be a AAA game in order for it to be appreciated and above all else to be good. As always though, if you guys did enjoy today's review, please let me know down in the comment section below. Consider liking and subscribing, and come join us in some of our upcoming future review videos. And as always, if you guys would like to see me do any certain games for upcoming reviews, please let me know down in the comment section and I'll do what I can to add those to my upcoming list. But nevertheless though, this has been another episode of Simply Honest. I've been your host, Nico Silverado, and as always, we'll see you guys all on the next review.